I always told my students not to take the shortcut. Not because of the old urban legend. Because of the road. A thin strip of asphalt between concrete walls, barely wide enough for a car, blind corners at both ends. No sidewalk, no mirror. Go the long way, I'd say. Past the main road, under the bright signs. Take an extra 5 minutes and stay alive. They'd roll their eyes. Sensei, it's fine. We've been using that road since elementary school. Only old people are scared. What I didn't tell them was that I used to be a student here too. I had walked that road 100 times, between the squeezed-together houses and the dark park with its squeaky swings, before I learned why it didn't feel like just bad city planning. Why, in that moment between leaving the last warm school light and reaching the first convenience store sign, the air always felt heavier, like someone's hand was resting lightly on the back of my neck. Her hand. It started again with an essay. I teach English at a small middle school in a quiet part of town. Our third years had to write about a person I will never forget. Most wrote about grandparents. One boy wrote about a soccer coach. One girl wrote about a convenience store clerk who let her off when she forgot her wallet. Then there was Ayumi. Her essay began. I will never forget the woman who walked me home. Even though my mother says I never had a sister and the police say she does not exist. It went on to describe a rainy evening 2 years earlier, when she was still in elementary school. She got held up at club, left late, and decided to take the shortcut. The long road was full of rushing cars and salarymen with umbrellas. I don't remember exactly when she started walking next to me, Ayumi wrote. Only that suddenly my umbrella felt smaller, and there was a red sleeve next to mine. A woman in a deep red coat, white surgical mask, long black hair neatly tied on one side. Her voice was gentle and oddly familiar. Are you going home? She asked. Ayumi said yes. Alone? That's dangerous, the woman said. It's better to walk with someone. Especially here. Ayumi remembered mumbling something about living close by. The woman laughed. I know, she said. I've watched you walk this way many times. She never touched Ayumi. Never blocked the path. Never raised her voice. She simply walked beside the girl to the turn where the quiet houses ended and the bright convenience store signs began. After this corner, you're safe, the woman said. You can pretend we never met. Ayumi turned to say thank you, but the woman in red was gone. No footsteps. No closing umbrella. Nothing. At home, her parents scolded her for being late, but when she started to say a woman walked me, her mother's face changed. Don't joke about that, she snapped. Don't bring that thing into this house. What thing? Ayumi asked. Her mother wouldn't answer. The next week, a classmate told her the legend of Kuchisake-onna. The Slit-Mouthed Woman. A masked lady who appears on quiet streets near schools, asking, Am I pretty? If you answer wrong, she cuts you. If you answer right, but it's a lie, she cuts you deeper. Ayumi finished her essay like this. I never saw her face. But sometimes when I walk on the long road and past the convenience store, I feel like someone is already walking beside me, just out of view. I think she chose to be kind that day. I don't know what I will do if she ever asks me her question. Her English was clumsy, but the feeling was clear. I read it twice. Then a third time. My hands were colder than they should have been. Because I also had a story about a woman who walked me home. And I had never written it down. The second hint came a week later. Another class, another batch of essays. This time the topic was a place I hate. Teenagers can talk for 20 minutes straight about places they hate. Dentists. Cram schools. Relatives' houses with no Wi-Fi. Kenta, usually the class clown, wrote about the narrow back street behind the school. He called it the mouth of the town. The walls are like teeth, he wrote, and the road is the tongue. Once you go between the teeth, it is hard to go back. You have to finish walking all the way to the end, even if someone is coming toward you. He described late afternoons in winter, when the sunlight is already fading and your breath fogs in the air. He described noticing his own footsteps echo louder than they should in the empty street. He described hearing another set of steps behind him, perfectly matching his pace. I thought it was just my echo, he wrote. But then I stopped. The other steps did not. He wrote about turning around and seeing a woman at the far end of the alley, coat the color of dried blood, white mask over her face. She wasn't moving. She wasn't walking. She was just standing there, head slightly tilted. He couldn't see her eyes, but he felt them. I walked faster, Kenda wrote. I thought, if I run, it will be more embarrassing if she is just a normal person. If I walk, I can pretend everything is okay. The steps behind me began again. When I walked slow, they were slow. When I walked fast, they were fast. At the bend, where the alley curves and you can't see the main road yet, he heard the woman's voice, much closer than it should have been. Right behind his left ear. Hey, she whispered. If you look back now, I'll show you which version of my face you get. He wrote that he kept his eyes on the asphalt and walked out into the bright evening like someone surfacing from deep water. I hate that road, he finished. But I still take it, because it is quicker. I don't know if she is a ghost, a crazy person, or my own imagination. I am only afraid of the day I look back. I circled his grammar mistakes in red pen. My fingers trembled slightly. The last bell on Fridays always feels different. Tired and frantic at the same time. Students surge out into the street, shoes squeaking, laughter bouncing off the buildings. Teachers stay behind, stuck in the after-school light, between the loud world of kids and the quiet weight of grading, meetings, and pointless paperwork. That Friday, the vice principal asked me to lock up the third-floor classrooms. Make sure all the windows are closed, he said. There's supposed to be wind tonight. I took the keys. The corridor was empty except for the fading footsteps of the cleaning staff. Class 3-1, empty, windows latched, curtains breathing softly. Class 3-2, empty, chalk dust hanging in the air like ghostly pollen. Class 3-3, almost empty. One student sat by the window, drawing in the last pink streaks of sunset. It was Ayumi. Everyone else is gone, I said. Club? She shook her head. Just waiting, she answered in English, practicing. For who? She gave a small shrug. Not sure, she said. Her eyes flicked over my shoulder to the corridor. I turned. No one. When I looked back, she was erasing something on her notebook page. Before she rubbed it out, I caught a glimpse. A face with a wide, jagged mouth stretching ear to ear, lines of red pencil spilling down the neck. New art project? I asked, forcing my voice to sound casual. She pressed her palm over the page. Just a story, she murmured. Her reflection in the window glass looked older than 14. More like the silhouette of a woman. In a coat. The hallway lights flickered. I told her kindly but firmly that it was time to go home. Take the long way, I added. The main road. She smiled without showing teeth. Do you really take it, Sensei? She asked. Every night? I don't, of course. Not always. The long way adds 8 minutes to a 10-minute walk. 10 minutes is tolerable. 18 minutes when you're exhausted and carrying a bag of ungraded papers feels like a punishment. That night, I told myself I'd take the main road, just for once. Then I reached the fork. Left, the main street, bright with izakaya signs, the smell of fried chicken and cigarette smoke. Right, the narrow back street between cinderblock walls and low houses, already swallowed by shadow. It had rained earlier. The asphalt gleamed in patches. Somewhere, a television murmured behind closed curtains. I turned right. Of course I did. Because people don't make horror movie decisions out of courage. They make them out of laziness. The air between the houses was thicker, cooler. Street lights buzzed, spaced too far apart. My footsteps sounded too loud. I thought of Kenda's essay. The teeth. The tongue. The place you had to walk all the way through once you entered. Halfway down, near the sharp bend, I heard it. Another set of footsteps. Soft. Not echoing in time with mine. I told myself it was just someone else heading home. A neighbor. A student. A delivery person. Good evening, I rehearsed in my head, in a casual tone, ready to nod and pass. The footsteps behind me matched my pace. Slow when I slowed. Fast when I sped up. Shadows stretched and shrank on the wall beside me as I passed the thin cones of light. At the bend, where Yumi said the red sleeve had brushed hers, where Kenta said the voice had whispered by his ear, I stopped. The other footsteps stopped too. My heart hammered so loudly I could taste metal in my mouth. Don't look back. Every instinct said it. Every story I had ever read said it. Every old warning, every ridiculous urban legend. If you look back, you invite it in. If you look back, you give it your face to copy. If you look back. Sensei. The voice came from less than an arm's length behind me. Female. Muffled by a mask. Calm. Too calm. Sensei, she said again, the words sliding over the back of my neck like a cold fingertip. You tell them to take the long way. But you never do. A dozen rational explanations flew through my head. A student playing a prank. A local cosplayer trying to scare the teacher. A mother from the neighborhood recognizing me. I clung to them like railings on a wet staircase. I forced myself to turn around. She stood under the nearest streetlight. Red coat buttoned to the neck. White surgical mask hiding her mouth. Long black hair tied loosely on one side with a cheap, faded scrunchie. Rainwater darkened the cuffs of her sleeves, but the sidewalk around her was dry. Her eyes were the worst part. They weren't glowing. They weren't empty. They were just amused. The way adults look at children doing something predictable. You're out late, Sensei, she said, in the polite, slightly old-fashioned Japanese of someone who hadn't updated their speech patterns in a while. I could say the same, I replied automatically, though my throat was dry. Do I know you? She twisted her head slightly, like a dog hearing a strange sound. Do you? She asked. It's been a long time. People forget what they owe. Something about the angle of her head, the shape of her eyes, scratched at a memory I didn't want to pull into focus. I took a small step back. Are you one of my former students? I tried. If so, I'm sorry, my memory is. She interrupted. When you were 14, she said, you stayed late in this school too. Sat in a classroom on the second floor. Pretended to study while waiting for brave enough friends to come back from a test of courage. My mouth went dry. Because she was right. My third year. Summer. A stupid dare, stay alone after sunset and look in the dark window until you see Kuchisake-onna's reflection. We didn't see anything in the glass. We heard something in the hallway instead. Do you remember what you answered? The woman in red asked. The street felt narrower. The houses leaned in. I remembered. A soft voice outside the classroom door. Hey, am I pretty? Snickering from my friends under their breath. Go on, answer her, Ren. Don't be rude. My own voice, trying to sound brave and bored at the same time. You're pretty, I'd called. Now go scare someone else. The door had rattled once, as if someone was leaning on it. The voice had moved closer, right up against the thin wood. If I do this, it had said, am I still pretty? We had never opened the door. We had never seen her face. We'd just run, shouting and laughing, down the stairs and out into the hot, safe summer night. Teenage fear evaporates as soon as the lights return. Adult fear stays in the bones. The woman in the street watched me now with those humorless eyes. You lied, she said softly. You hadn't seen me, but you answered anyway. You just wanted the story to be over. Her hand rose slowly to the edge of her mask. My stomach dropped. Wait, I said, more sharply than I intended. Don't. You don't have to. She paused, fingers on the elastic. Don't look, she asked. Is that what you tell them? Take the main road. Don't feed the rumor. Don't say her name. If you ignore the legend, it goes away. Her eyes creased with something like pity. Do you know what happens to stories when everyone stops giving them faces? She asked. They borrow one. Before I could move, before I could turn away, she pulled the mask down. Her mouth stretched from cheekbone to cheekbone. Not a neat surgeon's cut. A ragged, too-wide split that showed gums, exposed teeth, and pale scar tissue glistening where lips should have been. I didn't scream. There wasn't enough air. Am I pretty? She asked. The question was old. The setting was new. Japanese houses snug and silent, bluish TV lights in second-story windows, distant hum of a vending machine by the park. I knew the rules. If you said no, she cut you. If you said yes, she thought you were lying and cut you anyway. If you tried to be clever, she made you more honest than you wanted. I don't know, I said finally, the truth surprising me. You're terrifying. Her eyes widened, not in anger, but in delight. Better, she whispered. We're updating, you know. New times, new answers. She stepped closer. Her breath smelled of metal and something sweet, like dried fruit left too long in the sun. The children, she murmured. They write such interesting things now. They see me on quiet roads, in convenience store reflections, in the dark parts of school windows. They call me by name in English class. Slit-Mouthed Woman. Urban legend. Kuchisake-onna. Her tongue flicked briefly over exposed teeth. They stream me now, too, she added. Filter me. Draw me. Rate me. But you, sensei, you lied before anyone had a camera. Her gaze sharpened. You tell them to go the long way, she said. But you still walk through the mouth. Because you think being scared makes you more interesting. More real. I couldn't argue. She moved even closer, until her ruined mouth was inches from my ear. Here is the new rule, she whispered. The old one is tired. Her hand, colder than the night air, rested lightly on my shoulder. Next time one of your students tells you they walked with me, she said, don't mark it as grammar practice. Don't circle their fear in red pen. Don't laugh it away in the staff room. Her fingers tightened just enough for pain. Listen to their answer, she said. And if you still send them through my street, alone, after that. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Her hand left my shoulder. The mask snapped back over her mouth. The slit vanished. Or maybe I just couldn't see it anymore. She stepped around me, feet making no sound on the damp asphalt, and began to walk toward the curve. I turned to follow her progress, low houses and leaning fences framing her like part of the scenery. For a moment, under the next streetlight, she looked like any woman in a red coat heading home late. Then the light flickered. She was gone. No footstep. No wet print. Nothing. Just the quiet hiss of a distant main road and the buzz of a vending machine by the park. On Monday, I changed the end-of-day announcement. For your safety, I said over the crackling speaker, all students are strongly encouraged to use the main street on their way home. The school will not take responsibility for any accidents that happen in the back alley. In the staff room, the other teachers looked up. Did something happen? One asked. A suspicious person? I thought of Ayumi's careful essay. Of Kenda's teeth and tongue. Of the hand on my shoulder and the mouth that couldn't decide whether it was smiling. Just updating an old rule, I said. That afternoon, as I stood by the gate watching students leave, Ayumi walked past with her friends. She caught my eye. Tilted her head. Sensei, she said in English, a tiny smile touching the corner of her mouth. You're pretty brave to change the ending now. I opened my mouth to ask what she meant. A car honked. Someone called her name. She was gone, swept into the laughing crowd. When I finally walked home, I took the long way. Past the busy intersection. Under the bright, ugly signboards. Beside the convenience store where workers stacked crates and the air smelled like fry oil. At the corner where the quiet back street begins, I stopped. The entrance to the alley yawned between the houses, dark and narrow, like a mouth waiting to see who would walk in. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of red in the shadow. Maybe a coat. Maybe a ribbon. Maybe the reflection of some old part of myself that still thinks horror is only real when it happens to someone else. A car passed. Headlights washed the walls. The red was gone. In the glass door of the convenience store, my own reflection stared back at me. Tired. A little pale. Mouth pressed into a thin line. Behind my shoulder, blurred slightly by the reflection, something stood at the edge of the alley. A woman, maybe. Or a trick of the light. I didn't look back to check. I went inside, bought myself a coffee from the machine, and took the longest, brightest way home. Tonight, if you must answer a stranger on a quiet street. If you hear a muffled voice by your ear asking if she is beautiful. Don't lie just to make the story end quickly. Stories in Japan don't end. They move. From school windows to residential alleys. From whispered dares to glowing screens. From teacher to student. From my mouth to yours. Now that you've heard this one, where you walk next, and what you say, is entirely up to you.